It is time that we ponder upon yonder. Rhyming. Yonder is a lot of things. It is a worker placement game. It is a resource management game. It's a contract fulfillment game. It's a, well, that's a lovely building you've built over there. Does that give me 2 wheat? Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Kind of game. So what makes Yonder different from other worker placement games? Well, there are 5 different workers, and unlike a lot of worker placement games, you don't actually own the workers. They don't belong to you as such. They come in on a boat and they get to work for you, harvesting grain, finding food, and developing your settlements. The thing about the workers in this game is most of them will have some kind of special ability. Firstly, we have the goblin. The goblin is there. The goblin has no real special ability as such. They are just there as goblins to go out and do menial tasks, get you stuff, build settlements, do all the fun stuff that goblins love to do. Next up is the skeleton. Skeletons are very useful. They are very similar to goblins. They can go out there and do the job that good skeletons often do. One benefit with a skeleton is that they do not require feeding. Yes, these workers require feeding at the end of each round, but we will get into that a little bit later. Next up is the dwarves. The dwarves have a very good ability on certain sections of the board. They can actually build and trade and do stuff with one less resource. So when you're spending resources to do stuff, they're not as expensive when you're using one of these little guys. Adorable. There are no shared spaces in Yonder for workers. When you put a worker down, that is it. No one else can go there. However, that's where the elf comes in. Elves can share worker placement spaces with other workers as long as it's not another elf. Elves obviously don't get on with each other, but they get on with everyone else. And finally, we have the ogre, the big boy. These have specific worker space locations where you place them and you can double the quantity of resources that they collect from those spaces because they're so big. The problem is, because they're so big, they need twice as much food when you come to feed them. Before I talk to you more about those workers and how to play the game, I need to do a little top down to show you the board setup to see exactly how the game looks and what you'll be doing. So this is Yonder. This isn't set up exactly how you'd set up the start of the game. I just wanted to give you an idea, a rough overview of how the game may look mid-game or during the gameplay. It's just so I can show you some of the stuff on the board. Now, you will have one card in front of you which to start the game, which is your headquarters. This is one worker placement space that you will have in front of you that gives you a build action to be able to build more buildings that you acquire through the game. This sits in front of you as a kind of open tableau. Now, on the board itself, there are multiple worker placement spaces that you can go to. As you'll see, they're indicated with the symbols for the ogres and the dwarves. And that means if you are to place an ogre or a dwarf, you can use their abilities. So double the meat here, for example, or I can do a double, or I can build with one less resource if I were to put a dwarf in that space. However, I can put a skeleton here and just get 1 meat, or I can put a goblin here and just build at the normal cost. So there's no restrictions on not being able to put something in its place. It's just that if you use the relevant meeple, you'll get the benefit of that worker in these spaces. So you'll have your basic resources for building and for fulfilling contracts. I'll get onto that. You'll have your spaces here for food because you will have to feed your workers. I will get onto that in a moment also. You'll have an architect where you can gain cards from this area. When you buy a card, they don't refill until the end of the round. The build action here, which is the same as the build action in your headquarters. So you'll be able to do that in a higher player count game. You might find that these 2 spaces are filled, so you have your own, or you might find that someone else has used your build action, so you have to use these. Absolutely, you can use anybody's cards that are in front of them, which can be a bit divisive. If you don't like that kind of take-thatiness of the game, maybe don't play with that particular rule, but generally speaking, there aren't a huge amount of spaces. If a higher player count game, these are getting filled up, you will need to borrow from other people's settlements just a little bit. There are also audience chambers, so you can move up the favor track, which will move your little discs up this track to gain benefits here. You can also spend 3 of any resources, matching resources, to turn them into Arcana. Arcana unlock these special abilities down here on the board, which will can give you extra workers and that kind of thing. But this lower section needs to have Arcana on it before you can unlock this part, and you get those even more powerful actions here. On a turn, you'll be basically placing a worker and gaining those resources. At any time, you can gain one of these contracts down the side. Now, these contracts have different requirements. However, when you take a contract from this board, this contract needs to be filled in every single round you're playing it. So you really need to make sure that you can guarantee that you're going to get these resources for the 5 rounds of the game, or 3 rounds left, or however many rounds left, because otherwise, if you can't fulfill these contracts, you lose 5 points. The other area on the board to look at is right up here. At the end of the round, you are going to go through the end of round steps, a bit of cleanup, but you're also going to take one of these boats. And as I mentioned before, workers, you don't own them. They're not your workers. If you place them out on the board, once they're on the board, at the end of the round, they will toddle off to another village, out of sight, out of mind. The only other way then to get more workers is by taking one of these boats that are coming into the harbour. These boats have more workers on them. So this one, for example, gives you an elf, a giant or ogre, and a skeleton for the round. These boats also give you these special abilities when fulfilling contracts, which I'll go on about in a little while. But these boats are really important because they're going to give you those workers for the next round. There is one other way to get workers, and that is the workers that are in your own settlement. If you have managed to do some building work, so for example, I might have built this, I have the headquarters, I might have this sausagery, and I might also have this cattle ranch, and I may well have used my ogre here to get more meat, that kind of thing, and I might have used an elf here to create it so the food doesn't rot, that kind of thing. If these are in my own village, I will have to pay them. I will have to feed these workers. So I need to make sure that I've got 2 meat or 2 food to feed the giant, or 1 meat, because 1 meat is the equivalent of 2 food. So he could be fed. And then that giant then stays as a worker. I get to keep that worker because I've kept them happy. This elf requires 1 food, but I've already fed my giant and I don't have enough food to feed my elf. So the elf is unhappy, so the elf might go away. If I can't feed my worker, I will lose points because I can't feed them and they're unhappy with me, so I'll lose 3 points because of that. Now this brings a really interesting method of gameplay as well, because if I, for example, use my giant to go into someone else's village to use their worker placement space, I've lost that character. My opponent potentially has gained that character as long as they can feed them. If they can't feed them, they're just going to lose 3 points. So there is that level of that level of, if I put this in your village and I know you can't feed this person, I know you're going to lose 3 points. Ha 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 ha. And I've gained all the benefits from your town. However, if you can feed that person, you've gained an extra worker on top of the boat. So you've got even more workers to do more stuff with. When you have enough resources to do these contracts can be done a number of times. You can actually fulfill this contract 1 to 2 times. So if you have enough resources, you basically will get those resources and you will choose your boat that you have that may have a special ability, and then you'll put it on the card. You know then that you have fulfilled this, you've sent the boat with those resources to this lovely dwarven person, and they're going to be happy with you. And then the next round, this card will stay in front of you, and you'll have to refill it again and get another boat or your boat and put it on top of that. So as the rounds progress, you will get more of these, and you will also get more boats to fulfill multiple. But as I said, you've always got to be able to fulfill these through the entire game, which brings me on to a very important part of the game, which is that worker resource kind of making sure that you have the workers, because this is great. I get a boat of workers in the first round. Huzzah! Loads of workers to put where I want. Where am I going to put them? In the village? I don't have to feed them. Then they go away. I'm going to get more workers. That's absolutely fine. On the next round, oh good, I've got more workers. I haven't got these workers anymore, but I've got these ones. So that's good. I could go into the village and I can do more stuff and go everywhere and make sure. Third round, amazing. Another boat. I get more people. This is fantastic. This is going really, really well. And I've placed my workers in the main board. I've got a couple of workers in my own village. Oh, I'll be a bit spiteful. I'll put my ogre in someone else's village because that's going to be really annoying for them and they'll have to pay food or they're going to lose points. And then the fourth round comes and there's no more boats. There's no more workers. And then the fifth round comes and there's still no boats. And there's still no workers. You see, if I haven't planned for those last 2 rounds early enough in the game, if I haven't built up my own settlement to be able to use my own worker placement spaces to feed my own people, if I don't do that part of the game early and set that engine up essentially, it's going to be a long couple of rounds, and that's never happened to me playing this game. I've never had a 5th round and gone, I can't do anything. And that is where the game gets tough. There is so much fun in these cards. They're so light, they're adorable, the artwork is beautiful, everything looks like it's a real fun time. I really enjoy these characters and fulfilling these contracts, and it feels great when you fulfill these contracts and you're getting points and you're doing these things and making sure you've got something built to keep on getting those contracts fulfilled. But if you haven't planned those very early rounds, those very early base steps of making sure you're getting your workers, getting sure you've got all of the stuff so you've got it in front of you to make sure that you can feed your workers and keep your workers, because the more workers you have, the more you're going to be able to do, the more you're going to be able to fulfill those contracts. And that's where the difficulty lies. It's that managing these characters, keeping these people in your realm so you can fulfill everything for those final 2 rounds, because those final 2 rounds are so challenging if you have not played and laid the groundwork early enough, and that can be completely swingy. I played a game recently where in the 4th round I was winning. I was well ahead. I was at the top of this score track, and on the 4th round I had 2 workers. That's 2 places. That's 2 workers to gain resources for 4 contracts. That's not possible. And every contract you don't fulfill is minus 5, 10, 15 points. I lost because I didn't control my workers. I couldn't do anything at the end of the game, and that was devastating to the score. It didn't matter that I was running away with it early doors, because at the end of the game, I just messed up everything. So my strategy wasn't set out, and that is why this game, for me, I genuinely love it, because there is that element of I need to set up the groundwork and then it'll be nice and smooth sailing. But I can understand why people don't enjoy that. People don't like the spitefulness of, I'm coming over there, I'm getting your stuff, but then I can fulfill my contract. I make sure I need, so I'm going to build out my tableau. Because really, I want to build out my tableau and welcome you in. Come, you use my spaces because I can feed them and I have extra workers. There are so many different elements in the game that just keep me coming back to this. And I can understand where people don't enjoy it. People might not enjoy that kind of take that. I've laid the groundwork. I've gained these resources. I've paid loads of money. I've done everything I need to do. And I've played my card down and it's almost come back round to me and someone's stolen my space that I really wanted to use. And I can get that frustration and I can totally understand that that is annoying. And if that is something that you don't enjoy, then 100% this might not be the game for you. I can understand that if you don't like the fact that I've got this card, you've got this card in round 1, and now I need to make sure that I've got a wheat, a meat, and a grain to fulfill this contract for the next 5 rounds. I understand that because you are just lather, rinse, repeat. You're doing the same thing over and over again. I get that. But there is a level of that thinking strategically within the game that just I absolutely adore. The abilities on these boats, making sure you're not just taking the one going, this is great, this is dwarves, I need dwarves. Dwarves are cool because I can build stuff for less money or less resources. I can do that, that's cool. I got these less dwarves, this is brilliant. I can do all this good stuff. The problem is there's also the ability that's just here. Is this ability going to actually help me? Like, yes, cool, I've got meat and I've got 3 dwarves. That's great. But do I need the ability on the... Is that going to help me? Is the ability on the boat, when I fulfill this, going to actually help me further down the line? Or is it actually going to be like a one-time boon, like this one, for example? This is 2 gold coins. Amazing. 2 gold coins. Cool. That's 2 points. Brilliant. That's cool. But is that going to help me in the next round when I have to fulfill this contract again? And those 2 gold coins, they're just points in the end of the day. That's 2 points, but if I don't fulfill this, I'm going to lose 5 points. That means I've lost 3 points. There's so much to think about. There is so much to think about in this game, and it doesn't look like there is as much going on when you look at this box and go, oh, that looks cute, that looks cozy, that looks like a nice little jaunt. There is a whole lot going on, and it's not obvious from the outside. So overall, I find Yonder fascinating. It is tough, it is cutthroat, it is ruthless, and it doesn't look like it should be. This is a very, very simple to learn game. There are few rules that really will trip you up. Everything is pretty straightforward. The depth in the game is strategy, and that is what I love about board games. I love a game that is very, very straightforward. When you know how to play it, you know how to play it. I can set this up and I can go, I can teach this. I have no problem getting this game to the table. The thinking behind it, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to move, how I'm going to buy, what I'm going to fulfill, those contracts, all of that. There are so many choices and so many decisions to make that make this, to me, a very fun experience and a really nice entry into worker placement that does a lot of things that a lot of worker placement games that I have. It is my favorite mechanic in a board game, and it does things differently to other worker placement games that I have. And therefore, this one gets my seal of approval. Insert clapping seal. I don't know, I don't have seals. Just we have seals in like Norfolk, and like October you can see the little babies being born. You're not allowed on the beach at that time, but you can see them in the summer. You just see them splashing around. You go on the beach, but they're more in the sea at that point. But if you go in October time, they're having the babies, so you can see the baby seals, but they're everywhere. There's thousands of them. It's amazing. That's got nothing to do with the board game, but there's an insight into the coast of the UK. And that is Yonder. Let me know your thoughts and feelings about Yonder. Is this on your radar to get to the table in the near future? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, do all those fun YouTube things because it's fun and it's YouTube and the algorithm says so. Leave a comment. Let me know any other worker placement games that do things similar. We all know about feeding workers and that sort of stuff. It's fun. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.